everybody. Welcome to Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And we're going to go ahead and get this party started. Eric got to see the Rams for the first time live and not on a simulcast. Whatever it's called. Anyway, E, take it away.
Yeah, so here's what I think about the Rams. Go ahead and raise the division championship banner. You might as well get that out of the way now. I'm dead serious. There is nobody in the West that's going to challenge the Rams whatsoever. They were relentless. The Vikings did exactly what they had to do, and that was score and score as many times and as at will as they could. And they tried, and they were so close. It was a 7-point game, but it felt like that when Minnesota had an answer, that the Rams were like, okay, we're going to respond too. Here you go. And we're going to score quicker and faster. And we're going to take up less time on the clock. The Vikings needed to run the ball. They couldn't do it. And what did I tell you leading up to this game? Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs were going to have great games. Mm-hmm. Okay? I already knew the Rams were going to have a great game. Okay? Because the Vikings defense isn't as advertised as it was last year. Last year would have been a different story. Last year, the Vikings were one. This year, the Vikings defense is their biggest letdown, and that's what's going to prevent them from winning the division if it keeps up. If they don't fix what needs to be fixed. You know, Harrison Smith is the captain in the secondary. He needs to get everybody lined up, just like the linebackers need to make sure that they're not out of position. Okay, none of that's going on in defense. You could tell as soon as the game starts, getting away from them, that they start not doing their jobs the way they should be.
Yeah.
Thielen and Diggs, I said that they would have good games because of who the Rams were missing in the secondary. Now, it's not always going to be like that. We know Akeem Tully went on IR. He's going to be out a minimum 6 weeks. So I believe they're going to designate him for his return. But I am very surprised that Marcus Peters played when he did. And listen, I know we're a week and a half away from that game, and that's fine. But Marcus Peters coming out and saying, I'm playing, put life in that Rams defense. Now, the Rams defense, to me, is a little disappointing as well. But I will say this. Aaron Donald could have destroyed Kirk Cousins multiple times. I mean, put that guy in a body bag. And he didn't. And I saw no roughing the passer calls, which I thought he did a great job. And I'm going to get to another play later on that I thought was a great job on hitting the quarterback, or not hitting the quarterback, but just spinning him down.
The ragdoll play.
Or if anybody watched the Thursday night game between the Patriots and Colts, on the second snap for the Colts in the game, Andrew Luck got lit up by 3 guys. They did that the right way. Okay? If you guys want to go back and look at it, take a look, because I thought, they basically game busted him. But there was no flag, which was great. Donald could have easily, laid Cousins out flat and drawn a couple of flags, but he didn't. And that's the way the NFL wants it, although I don't necessarily agree with it. He's got the ball. He's got pads on. He's got a helmet on. He should be able to get hit. But Donald did the smart thing. The right thing, yes. Smart thing, yes. That's the way the NFL is going. And unfortunately, we have to go with it.
Yeah.
The Rams on the other end, Goff, ridiculous. If he is not the MVP frontrunner as of right now, 4 weeks in, then the only other person I can think of would be Patrick Mahomes. So if those two are 1-2, you know what? I'm telling you, it's going to come down to the Monday night game between the two quarterbacks who has a better day that people are going to look back at.
Yeah.
How did Goff do against the Chiefs? How did Mahomes do against the Rams? And I'll tell you what, Goff's going to throw 7 touchdowns against that Chiefs defense. I'm saying it right here. Cooper Kupp, my goodness, have yourself a day.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp opened up everything for everybody else. Woods, Cooks, Gurley, everything. Bold prediction right here. Guys, I want you to hold on to your seats. The Rams are going 16-0.
Wow. Really, Eric?
You heard it here, and I'll tell you why. I'm unless they get a bevy of injuries, and unless Goff has one of the worst games of his life, and the Rams lose, that's the only way this Rams team is losing. They're on a mission. They are kicked off from getting, I want to say humiliated. You might give me a different word. They are humiliated about their playoff showing last year.
Yeah.
They're hungry. They have another year under the system under McVay, and they're having fun, and they're playing football like it's nobody's business. This is video game numbers that they're putting up.
Yeah. Well,
16-0 and raise the division banner in the next home game. I'm telling you, right now, they are scary good. And you've talked about the Rams losing to the Bears. Not going to happen.
I mean,
I'm a Bears fan.
It's just that edge pressure that I'm worried about. Look, the Rams are notorious in their history for having a WTF game at some point. So if it's not Chicago, I could see it happening. Look, I hope.
I mean, the only other team I can think of that could possibly put up decent numbers against them and maybe hold their defense, and I say maybe because their defense has also been a little suspect, is Green Bay.
Yeah.
Okay? But without a healthy Rodgers, oh man, any pressure up the middle from Donald or Sue on Rodgers, and he's done.
It's over. Yeah.
But then you get Philadelphia. If Wentz is feeling good and they can't cover Jeffrey and Aguilar and Ertz, and Ertz is the biggest guy who can hurt you on that team, I believe.
Yeah.
Then that's a possibility too. However, I just think they have too much offensive firepower. And yes, I know a good defense can neutralize a good offense, and it's happened throughout the history of the game. But I'm sorry, and the weakness on the Rams right now is their defense. But they put up so many points that they can do that. They don't have to be perfect on defense.
Well, and I want to touch on this because the weakness may be defense right now. But Eric, I don't know about you, but I anticipated the first 5-6 weeks of the season was going to be a little rough for this defense because of all the dynamic characters they have to mesh, gel, and figure what each other's all about. And it takes time. I figure by Denver, the Rams should have this thing figured out. And if they're still giving up points with regularity like they have been, then yes, okay, I get it, be concerned. Look, I said before this game that Jared Goff was the NFL MVP, and if he wasn't, it was friggin' malpractice. Now, I'm going to go a step further, Eric. I think the Rams are not only going to beat the Chiefs, but I think Goff is going to put up really good numbers, and I think the defense is going to have a really good showing. And you know why Mahomes is going to get the MVP over Goff? Or what some will argue. I don't think he actually will. But I think the argument for him is going to be, well, Mahomes didn't have that Rams defense. If he had that Rams defense, he would have put up similar numbers. That's going to be the argument because this is what I've seen so far this year. Every week the Rams are supposed to be a team better than the Rams. And every week it turns out there's no one better than the Rams. And then the next week in the build-up, there's somebody better than the Rams. And right now everyone's on Mahomes and the Chiefs. And they played a great game against Denver with a great comeback win. We'll get to that. But what I saw on Thursday night was a football team that I have not been this confident about a team since 2001. And isn't it funny that in 2000, the Rams lose a wild card game to New Orleans when they were the scariest 6th seed to ever live, which I do believe, and then just literally fumbled the game away in the final moments. And then the next year they go 14-2 and go to the Super Bowl. And if it wasn't for the New England Patriots cheating and breaking about 17 different rules in that Super Bowl, not to mention face masks that weren't called, roughing the passer calls that weren't penalties that weren't called, pass interference penalties that weren't called, the Rams still almost pulled that game out. So I look at this football team and I say, okay, with the rules the way they are for offense today, the Patriots wouldn't beat the Rams today. There's no way. If they played in 01 with the rules that they're playing with now. And when you look at the Rams defense, I call it the ragdog play, or the ragdoll play, because you're right. Aaron Donald could have destroyed Kirk Cousins, and instead he just kind of flung him down like a ragdoll, not wanting to risk a penalty and knowing that he's just a superior athlete in comparison to anybody playing quarterback, and no one's going to break his tackle. And he's not going to risk falling on the guy if he can just chuck the guy to the side. Aaron Donald's a beast. Cooper Kupp continues to blow me away. Braden Cooks continues. It's Braden, right? Or Brandon? Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks. Sorry, I had a Braden in my class. I was calling Braden all week. Brandon Cooks is helping Cooper Kupp. They have to account for him deep. And Kupp is really benefiting from it. Now, Kupp's precise route running is forcing defenders to come down on him, which is helping Brandon Cooks. And while those two are stealing all the attention, Robert Woods is getting open. And I felt in order for the Rams to win this game, they need to utilize a tight end. They didn't even utilize a tight end this past week against Minnesota. That to me is what scares me. You went up against what I do think is a good defense. I just think they're struggling right now. They went up against, and don't forget how bad they looked against Pittsburgh last year. But they went up against what I think is a pretty good defense. Not the best they're going to see this year, but a pretty good defense. And they didn't even utilize all of the talent on the field. McVay is obviously a genius, but for me, this thing, I used to. Eric, I'm going to ask you a question. Does this offense run on Jared Goff or Todd Gurley?
Right now, Jared Goff.
Thank you. That's what I'm noticing. Like, the Rams aren't utilizing Todd Gurley nearly as much. And Goff isn't only making throws, he's making Hall of Fame caliber throws. Throws that's just making me go, how did you fit it through that window? And as he gains more and more confidence, and these receivers gain more and more confidence in him, I just, the afterthought is going to be giving the ball to Todd Gurley in the third and fourth quarter to run out the clock. And that would back up your 16-0 claim if it gets down to that. Look, there are three elements of this game that I pulled away from it. Number one, if the Rams' depth in the secondary is as strong as I thought it was. Because considering the caliber receivers they went up against, which they won't see that caliber receiver again for quite some time, and yes, I'm including Denver in that equation, because I do think the Vikings receivers are better than Denver's, they held their own. For the most part, they held their own. If you watch the game, and I know you did, Eric, Kirk Cousins was insane in the first half. He was putting balls in places that you shouldn't be able to put. I don't care if you have Deion Sanders covering, Thielen or Diggs. That ball was getting caught by Thielen or Diggs. And the one touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone, man, you could have had Blunt from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Blount. And Donnie Shell double covering him. And that ball would have been caught for a touchdown. Cousins played insane in that game. And I got to give credit where credit's due. The second thing that I took, so my depth in the secondary has been confirmed. I'm happy with that. The second thing that I took away from this game is that the Rams linebackers are getting better, but they're not as good as they can be, and they're not as good as I feel they should be right now. And while that was a weakness going in, it's become less of a weakness, but if I have to pick a weakness on this football team, it's there. The third thing that I took away from this game is just what we talked about, that this team is running off Jared Goff, not Todd Gurley. Jared Goff is the engine of this offense. And, I don't want to toot my own horn yet because we are only a quarter of the way into the season, but hopefully people are understanding why it takes 3 years before you're going to go ahead and condemn a quarterback on his performance. That you can't do it off 7 games. You can't do it off 1 season, 2 seasons. It takes 3 full seasons. And Jared Goff is exhibit A through Z on that equation. And I think the sky's the limit, and he's only getting better. Look, I picked the Rams to lose this game because of history. But this Ram team is telling everybody, forget what you remember about the Los Angeles Rams of old. Completely forget about the St. Louis Rams, because that's not even a thing. That's like the Cleveland Rams. That's going to be a footnote in history. This is our time. This is our dynasty. And this is our season. That's what I took away from the Ram game. Am I out of bounds on any of that?
No, not at all. Listen, here's the other thing. The Rams need to be talked about more. Not so-and-so's better than the Rams. Until somebody goes and beats the Rams, then you can start talking about that. They were better than the Rams that day, maybe, but they're not a better football team than the Rams.
No.
And it doesn't matter. I don't care who you put up against them. Right now, the Chiefs would give up 50 to that Rams offense.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a defense that can stop what Goff can do.
Well, and
now I think Kansas City can also score on the Rams defense
right now.
I don't think it can be nearly as much as what the Rams could put up offensively. I mean, you need a strong linebacking core coupled with 3 well above average quarterbacks to shut down any type of pass game. And then when you do that, you have to worry about the tight end.
Yeah.
And the tight ends are not getting any play in LA. They're getting play, they're running routes, they're not getting any targets.
They haven't needed him.
When Goff throws to a tight end multiple times in a game, and let's say that's Higbee, okay? I'm just going to use him as an example. Let's say that's Higbee this week. Well, then you're like, oh, crap, now we got to cover the tight end. But that leaves then Woods or Cooks open, and then you're screwed.
And you still need a front four that can put pressure on the quarterback.
Exactly.
And then how are you going to put 8 in the box to stop Todd Gurley? You know, right now people are saying, okay, Jared, beat us. And Jared's saying, okay, how about a 158.3 quarterback rating, 5 touchdowns, and, no interceptions.
I'll tell you how you put 8 in the box. Go back to Goff's rookie year with Jeff Fisher as your head coach. That's how you put 8 in the box. Those times are gone.
Right. And teams have decided what the media said was true, that the Rams' engine is Todd Gurley, and you need to stop Todd Gurley, and then you can beat the Rams. And I think Jared Goff, what I love about this kid, Eric, more than anything, and why he's rapidly becoming my favorite football player in the league. I mean, Andy Dalton's always, has been number 1 for a long time. He's about to take him over. And the reason is he doesn't say anything. He doesn't comment to the media. I would. Oh, I'd go off. But he doesn't. He's just like, okay, so I'm a piece of garbage still, huh? All right. Well, let me sling it all over the yard, and you go ahead and tell me how I'm garbage the next week. Oh, it's still about Todd Gurley and Mahomes, huh? All right, Minnesota, come into my house. Let me show you what I'm all about. And what I think is really misunderstood here, Eric, is the Rams don't leave the Mountain West time zone until I'm looking at it right now, until week 9 when they go to New Orleans. They're at Denver.
That's going to be a fun offensive showdown.
Yeah, that is. They're at Denver. They're at Seattle, at Denver. Then they are home. No, I'm sorry. Then they're at San Francisco, right? Then they're home against Green Bay before they go to New Orleans and then Mexico City. Oh, no. Then they go to, they come back home to play Seattle. And then they go to Mexico. They don't leave the West for any stretch of time until after the bye week in week 12. This is the most travel-friendly schedule I've ever seen the Rams play. I knew playing the AFC West was going to help. I didn't anticipate them to schedule it quite like this. It's nice when you have 10 games in your time zone. But either way, they're scary. They're really scary. And Jared Goff, to me, like I said before, at this point, it's Jared Goff for MVP or it's malpractice by anyone who votes otherwise. He is, hands down, yes, I said hands down, the best quarterback in the National Football League right now. He is better than anyone you're going to throw my way. I'm not discrediting Mahomes. He is a close second. But I'm sorry, I've seen too many. Jared, I heard somebody say Mahomes hasn't had to throw through that tight window yet. Okay, well, Jared Goff has. And you know what? Jared Goff's done it. So I don't want to hear the Mahomes is better than Goff right now. Until Mahomes has to throw through some tight windows and can do it in a close game under pressure like Goff has been doing, like he did against Minnesota. To me, that Minnesota game, and I'll wrap up my thoughts on the Minnesota game, Eric, with this. That Minnesota game had 2 key elements for me that were crucial moving the Rams forward. One, they needed to be in a dogfight and know what it's like to be in a close game. They needed to know what guys are going to step up and what guys aren't going to step up. And it was really convenient for them to have a weakened secondary in that situation because now they know a lot more about Sam Shields and the backups, right? Which I think is impressive. The second thing that it did is it I think it might have reinvigorated not only the Ram fans, but the Ram players. Because I think, they were kind of looking at this being like, is this going to be this easy? Is this going to be a boring year? And that Minnesota game, you could kind of tell the guys were having fun. Like, they were enjoying that it was a close game. But they were also like, they had no doubt they were going to win the game. And that, to me, I'm gonna make a comparison here, Eric. Okay? And bear with me for a minute, okay? In 1985, the Chicago Bears gave up, 28 points against the Buccaneers? And then they gave up, in week 3, they gave up like another 20 points. They weren't very good the first 4 weeks of the season defensively. But then it really locked down. And it was by week 4, actually I think it was by week 6 when the Bears beat the 49ers, that the Bears kind of figured out we're the best team in football and no one's going to beat us. And I think the Rams got that feeling today, or this week, last week, against Minnesota in week 4. Like, beating the Vikings for them was this was the team that dominated us last year when we were in our stretch run, when we were at our best, and we just beat them. We can't be beat. That's my final takeaway. Anything you want to add?
No, I think we hit on everything.
I do too. Jets at Jaguars. This game went exactly the way we thought. The Jags looked good. They dominated when they had to. Blake Bortles continues to impress. There's another example. Sorry, there's a truck driving by. There's another example of somebody who doesn't get enough credit. Better yet, forget enough credit. There's another example of somebody that you need to wait 3 years on before you're going to make a judgment on. I think Blake Bortles has played great this year. I think he's really carried the Carolina Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, because Fournette's been MIA for 3 weeks. So, impressive win for me for the Jags. You?
Yeah, their defense is starting to get right. I know their defense is playing really well the last couple of weeks, but I'm not sure if you can really say you're getting right against the Jets. But it's gonna end up being a long season for the Jets, which everybody knew coming in, even though week 1 might have been an aberration. And we can go peaks and valleys with teams every week, and it seems I was impressed with what the Jets did to the Lions, because I'd never seen the Lions do something like that before. Just like get their butts kicked at home.
Yeah.
In the Matt Stafford area, I should say, because they've been really competitive. They were just not competitive in that game, but they bounced back decently enough. The Jaguars need to win these games. They can't afford to lose ground in the division because they're already a half game back. Same record as Tennessee, but a half game back because Tennessee's already beat them once. They need to keep pace with Tennessee because it's going to be a 2-team race. And the Jaguars, if the Jaguars don't slip up and Tennessee does, the AFC road can go through Jacksonville.
Yep. We said that in the beginning of the year. I got nothing. I got no reason to doubt my Jacksonville Jaguar pick, and I'm really excited for this week, which I'm going to get to because I want to cover that game. I think this is going to be the game that defines the Jaguars, and I'll get to that later. Dolphins at Patriots. Look, I was totally befuddled and shocked at the Patriots game. I expected Miami to put up a fight. I don't know. Look, I don't think Miami is as bad as they played, and I don't think New England is as good as they played the last 2 weeks. I will give credit where credit is due, okay? I had picked Miami, and I picked Miami to win the division, but I keep reminding people I did pick New England to make the playoffs this year. I did not think that this was a football team that wasn't going to be a postseason team. That's why I picked them against the Colts. But for me, I still see problems in New England's arsenal. I look at the Dolphins and I'm like, okay, well, they didn't have their edge rusher. They have Quinn, but they didn't have the other one. He'll be back next week. I guess it wasn't a season-ending injury, but he wasn't going to play on a short week. I don't know. Tom Brady, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but I have not seen Tom Brady in any of his games this year go vertical down the field at any point with any kind of accuracy at all. Have you?
Yes, the previous Thursday night game.
This last Thursday night game?
This last Thursday night.
Did he? Well, okay. Now, are you NFL Network and for Tom Brady, down the field vertical passing game is 20 yards?
No, more than that. I mean, well, okay. Let me rephrase that. I mean, how vertical do you want to go? I'm gonna bench it the low point, 15 yards. He was throwing, 15, 25 yards. He threw a 30-yard touchdown pass.
Okay.
In the air to Josh Gordon.
For me, 25 yards or farther, with some semblance of accuracy, is what.
New England doesn't run those routes.
Well, but in their history, when they've needed to, they can, and Tom Brady's been able to do it. I haven't seen Brady be able to do it this year.
Well, you are missing a deep threat. They traded him to the Rams.
Well, that is true.
Now, the Patriots know that they have problems on the offensive line this year with the loss of Nate Solder.
Mm-hmm.
So what does Brady have to do? Brady has to throw 3 to 7 yard outs. Okay, he doesn't have all the time in the world to be able to throw 20, 25, 30-yard passes.
So my question.
Look who his wide receivers are. Okay, Edelman just came back Thursday. He actually provided a spark for that offense, and Brady had another weapon to throw to. You have Hogan on one side, you have Gordon on another. There's Philip Dorsett on also running around. There's another wide receiver I can't think of. Cordero Patterson is out there as well. Yeah. But he's more of a gimmicky wide receiver.
Yep.
And then you have Gronkowski as your tight end, who's not the healthiest right now, but he provides something in the middle to be aware of. Okay, and Gronkowski's going to run 10 to 20 yards. That's it. He's not going to go down the seam and look for that 50-yard.
I guess that's my point. Is I don't understand what the Dolphins and Colts were doing. I don't understand why you don't put your corners man up at the line of scrimmage, jam those wide receivers. That's going to eliminate the screen game because they have no room to run it.
I'll tell you what the Colts were doing. They had nobody to throw to.
I'm not talking offense.
There's three wide receivers in the game against the Patriots. Were Chester Rogers, Zach Pascal, and Ryan Grant. Ooh, so scary. The one guy who beat up the Patriots was a tight end.
Yeah.
By the name of Eric Ebron.
Yeah, shut up.
And you know that quite
shut
well.
up.
You just told me to shut up.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't mean to get into this really quick, but I'm gonna give you some stats. Eric Ebron, the most touchdowns he's had in a season prior to this year was 5. His second year back in 2015. The most receiving yards he ever had in a season was 711. That was his third year in 2016. Eric Ebron right now has 5 touchdown catches in 5 games.
I know.
Dude's never been like this in Detroit.
Look.
I don't know, if Matthew Stafford throws it too hard, or if Andrew Luck doesn't throw it hard enough to where Ebron's like, okay, my hands can take it.
Okay, Eric, I'm stopping you for a minute. You're talking about the Colts offense. My question was, what the hell were they doing on defense? Look, the Miami game, I'm combining these two games.
Injuries killed Indiana.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my point out here first, and then I'll let you answer, because I do want to hear what you have to say. But I want to explain something. I'm combining 2 games here, okay? Because the Patriots have played 2 games since our last broadcast. And they've won both, and they've looked phenomenal offensively on both. And I'm not discrediting what the Patriots have done. They've got one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played the game. They've got the greatest tight end, in my opinion, that's ever played the game. And they've got one of the greatest coaches that's ever coached the game. The Patriots are legit. I'm not taking anything away from New England. What I'm confused on is, as a coach, I look at those receivers. I look at a 41-year-old quarterback that has shown nothing on film that he can go downfield with any kind of accuracy. And downfield for me is 25 yards or longer. So my question is, I don't care how banged up you are in the secondary, your corners, your backup corners, are every bit as good as Hogan. Now, they're not as good as Edelman, but you have safety help. Why not put those guys up on the line of scrimmage? That eliminates New England's screen game entirely, right? Then you have your safeties, bracket cover the better of the 2 wide receivers. Last week in the Miami game, in my opinion, that would have been Cordell Patterson. This week against the Colts, in my opinion, that would have been Edelman. and you just sit there and go, we're going to blitz the hell out of the linebackers, not the same one every time, and only one, and we're sending the 4 down linemen, and we are going to put 5 on you at all times, forcing you to throw quicker, but take away your quick routes. None of the only person to do that has been Detroit. And they beat them 26-10. And I don't care. The Colts put up 24 points. If they had done that, they could have beaten the Patriots 24-10. Now, Miami had no chance. I don't care if they gave up 17 points. They weren't scoring more than they did, and their touchdown was in garbage time. I give New England full credit for the Dolphin game. I thought the Dolphins were better than that. But the Patriots defense really stepped up, and it's almost like Miami quit. I'm confused on the coaching. I've been confused on the coaching when it comes to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning for a long time now. That's my question. Now, I want you to answer it because and I know the fans do too, we love your mind and how you think of these things. And you look at it from an analyst point of view, but that doesn't mean you don't have a football mind at all. So tell me, what is the hang-up in doing that?
It's a good question. I think coaches are tentative to call big plays against the Patriots. I really do. And it's a Patriots defense that you can beat. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's a mind control going on. I don't know if there was a seance before the game. I don't know if these guys are hypnotized or whatnot. I can't explain it because it doesn't make sense to me. When the Patriots look like garbage in the first couple of weeks, when Tom Brady looks like he lost his best friend because he's not getting the ball.
Yeah.
That spills over. And the way Brady acts, pretty much the whole team acts.
Oh, he's a crybaby.
And when the defense is getting their brains beat in, okay, you have a different mindset. But when you can get the ball and you can hold on to the ball, because the Patriots had a great first drive. They held on to the ball for over 6 minutes in the actually almost half of the first quarter they held the ball for it.
Yeah.
On their first drive before Indianapolis even sniffed the football on the offensive side. So it's tough to explain because you just want somebody to go in there and have a great game plan to call for them and see what a 60-minute game could be like. And Detroit pulled it off. As much as I hate to say it, they provided a blueprint on how to beat the Patriots.
Well, there is that. Okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit and go to I was going to say something, though. You were talking about that. I don't know where it is. Anyway, it's gone. Philadelphia, Tennessee. My early candidate for Coach of the Year is in Tennessee right now. Vrabel.
By the way, what a great game.
I know, right? And what a gutsy, 3 gutsy calls. I give all the credit in the world to Frank Reich last week. Not this week, but last week. Even this week. I think he did what he could with a weak team. I give all the credit in the world to Frank Reich for doing what he did against Houston, saying, you know what, we're not going to tie. We're either going to lose or we're going to win. But we're not going to tie. And same thing with Vrabel. That was a great game. And Philadelphia's defense, we know the Eagles and Vikings are going to be there at the end. And we know that they're good football teams defensively. But right now, all 3 defenses looks like they're trying to play catch up. And I give all the credit in the world to Vrabel because he's won 3 incredibly tough games in a row against 3 really good opponents. So certainly at least 1 really good opponent. I think he's played out of his mind. I think he's the Coach of the Year right now. And Mariota's doing what he can, and doing it well. And I'll tell you what, Eric, I remember watching the Chiefs-Titans game in the postseason last year. I don't think there's a quarterback more beloved by his teammates than Marcus Mariota. And that was what I was going to talk about, going back to the New England thing, and then I'll let you take over with Tennessee. I'll get to the New England thing, though, later. But, yeah, I'll wait on Brady. But I don't know what you think of Mariota or what you think about the Titans, but They're impressing the hell out of me.
They still need work. They still need a semblance of a prolific offense. They need a running game. Because if they don't have any of that, Mariota gets his brains beat in.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to keep him healthy and upright. That is the biggest thing that I have for Tennessee. Look, the play calling in overtime was gutsy and ballsy. I'll give Vrabel all the credit in the world for that. To me, I thought twice he was going to kick the field goal and say, go ahead, Philadelphia, take the ball back, and if you do and don't score, we'll tie. Which I really thought that's what they might have been playing for. But kudos to Vrabel to say, you know what, let's put our guys in a position to win the game. Now, I know you mentioned Indianapolis really quick, and I want to touch back on that. Houston went to overtime. And Indy was on roughly their 45-yard line, 4th and 4. They went for it and didn't get it, and they left, I want to say, maybe 30 to 40 seconds on the clock, and Houston only needed to go 30 yards or so, 20, 30 yards. And Hopkins kicked the game, or I'm sorry, not Hopkins, he's on Washington now. Kaimi Fairbairn kicked the game-winning field goal, and I was like, Frank Reich, what are you doing? What are you calling that for? You punt it away because if you give up the ball right there, you lose. You're playing to lose. You're not playing to win.
No.
But I thought with Vrabel it was different. They had a different feel. They were more calm. We're going to execute. There was no denying them that they were going to make the play.
Okay.
I just don't think Indy's on that same level.
So here's what I want to say.
They have the talent.
That's the next game, so we're going to go into that, okay? I'm going to give you my 2 cents on this. I love what Frank Reich did. And if I'm a player on that football team, I am selling out for him for the rest of the year. Because rarely does a coach say, we're going to practice what we preach. Every coach tells you, treat a tie like a loss. Never settle for a tie. You hear that from Pop Warner on up. And here's a coach who looked at his players in the eye and said, you have 2 options. You either do this, and we'll get film on why we didn't, because we're going to lose, or you're going to know, or we're going to convert it because I believe in what we're doing here. And I love what Frank Reich did. I know it didn't have the same feel, Eric, and I know some people probably thought that they weren't going to get it, and I'll tell you why. Because Frank Reich is right. Frank Reich knows this football team is garbage. He's not there to lead the Colts to the postseason this year. He's there to find out what has to go, what can stay, and what needs to come in to build this organization. The Indianapolis Colts have the best coach, or one of the best coaches, in the AFC. I love what Frank Reich has done from the offseason to last week against the Texans. Yeah, he wasn't going to get it. He was giving Houston the win. But it is so much more important to send a loud and clear message to your players on a team you know isn't going anywhere. For those that are going to stay, Frank Reich pulled a Vince Lombardi moment. And here's what I mean. So this is what happened. They had practice on Monday for not converting that 4th down. Okay? They did wind sprints all day Tuesday morning. This is according to the Indianapolis Post. Okay? Then he gave a walkthrough on Wednesday and they went and played the Patriots. And they asked Frank Reich, why such a rough practice on a short week? And he's like, you had the Patriots. He's like, we prepared for the Patriots, but I'm preparing this team for next year. And we've got to put things in place. I'm paraphrasing. He basically said, we got to put things in place that are going to be the foundation for the team moving forward. He's got his mind on the right spot. And yeah, there are players that are like, what about me? What about this year? But they're far and few between. I mean, do you really think Jacoby Brissett thinks he has a future in Indy? Do you really think any of these wide receivers believe they're playing for a contract to play for the Colts next year? They are treating this season like a preseason, a year-long preseason to see what they have. And if they get wins along the way, and they will because Reich is just that good and their quarterback is just that talented, I think it's brilliant. And yeah, they lost the game in the end, but I think he gained the team in the end as well. And I just think that's so much more important than going for it on fourth down and not getting it. And I'm blown away by coaches that are chastising him, because it's like, are you guys so far removed from the game that you can't see why he did what he did? Not only that, but as a player, dude, you don't have to worry about this in baseball. As a player, I friggin' hate ties. It's like kissing your sister. If you get enjoyment out of that, you got bigger problems.
I enjoyed kissing your sister.
Yeah, that's my, yeah. I enjoy kissing yours too, don't worry about it.
I get what you're saying, but yes, I think there might be one or two wide receivers outside of T.Y. Hilton that may be playing for that contract for next year, and one of them could be Chester Rogers, it could be Ryan Gray. And I say that because until Indianapolis goes out and either signs a wide receiver in free agency or drafts a wide receiver, then yes, those guys are playing for that contract. They want to see who's going to play hard for them. And if Frank Reich is the man for the job, which I really have no negative things to say about Reich, because I know he went for it on fourth, and I questioned what he was doing, but obviously I understand what he's trying to do. But he wants to know who we can count on going forward in this game, and I really think that they missed T.Y. Hilton a lot against the Patriots. I think he could have carved him up, and Luck could have carved him up, but Luck had to take a different approach.
Yep.
Chester Rogers had a good game. He had 83 or so yards receiving. But it's really hard because you don't have that go-to receiver, and they don't have that unless T.Y. Hilton is on the field. So they need a number two or a number three to step up and be that wide receiver. But they have their own linemen that they got in the draft. They have their franchise quarterback if he can stay healthy. And so far, I thought he looked really good in the game against New England. Actually, he missed a couple throws here and there, but what quarterback doesn't? I just think that they need one or two more weapons, and they could really use a running back. Hello, Pittsburgh. We want Le'Veon Bell.
Dude, could you imagine him in Indy? That would be that would be like Marshall Faulk all over again. I would love that.
That would be sick. And I don't think Pittsburgh would trade into an AFC team that they know they could face later on down the road if they got to where they want to go.
Well, I don't think they think the Colts are going to. I mean, I think they would, because I don't think they think the Colts will be there.
I don't think Jim Irsay would sign off on that knowing that he doesn't know if he could re-sign Bell before the offseason.
Give him a long-term deal. That's what he wants.
That's what he wants. He did decline a $47 million deal. I don't know for how many years, but I think he's looking more in the Gurley number range.
I give him a 5-year deal I give him a 6-year deal with a promise that he won't play much this year until the end of the year, just to kind of get him some reps and get him back into football shape. But we'll save him for this year and then really unleash him next year with a better team around him. And if I'm Le'Veon Bell and I look at that Colt team, I'm like, you got the best center in football. You've got the best right guard in football. Why wouldn't I go there? Or tackle the kid from Notre Dame. Anyway, I want to move on. Green Bay Buffalo. Not much to talk about here in my opinion. Josh Allen looks like a rookie. The Bills have so many problems. I don't know how you go from looking like a world beater against Minnesota in Minnesota to looking like absolute garbage against Green Bay. And if anybody out there really thinks Green Bay's defense is better than Minnesota's, you're delusional and insane. However, statistically right now, if you're the Bills, that's what you showed. I don't know what's going on in Buffalo. They can't run the ball. They don't have receivers to catch it. The rookie quarterback is looking really rough. But I chalk that up to having to go to Minnesota and Green Bay in back-to-back weeks. That's not good. And that's not easy. And I love the fact that Aaron Rodgers made the statement that he made at the end of the game. He's concerned. He knows this is not a playoff team. They looked like garbage against Buffalo. This was really a brutal game to watch. I give credit where credit's due. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and he carried this football team and needs to continue to do so. A word of advice for Aaron Rodgers and his health: throw the ball to Jimmy Graham a lot more than you are. Just don't even waste your time. Get the ball out and let that big body do the work. You're going to get the same numbers, maybe a little less because you're not going downfield as much, but he's just too intent on throwing the long ball. He's got to tone that down and go to the intermediate routes more. Not to mention Green Bay has no running game. I got nothing left to say on this game. It was brutal. Buffalo's got a lot of work to do. I'll be watching them closely because I do like Josh Allen. But if I'm a Green Bay fan, I'm nervous.
As they should be. Because I'm glad you brought up what Rodgers said after the game, that he's concerned. He's concerned because they left a lot of points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The offense